Since the start of my anime journey, I have come across many recurring tropes. These have established themselves as genre definers which recur in different anime, giving an air of familiarity and recognition that we are watching anime. Over the years, I have slowly grown to recognize them, from the overpowered protagonists, the dead/natural parents, the last of their race, the edgy rival, the power of friendship, the pervy mentor. The list goes on. Some I've grown to love, others I've simply grown to accept. But above all, or more accurately put, below all, the one I'll never accept is actually within another trope. If you haven't guessed which one I'm left out by now, I'll tell you. And that is a tsundere. We all know a tsundere. Some are lovable, some are okay to a degree. And just so we are all on the same page, let me describe what I believe a tsundere is and going by definition. A tsundere is a fictional character archetype, particularly common in anime and manga, who initially appears cold, harsh, or even hostile towards a love interest, but gradually reveals a warmer, more affectionate side. And it's within this genre my true disgust lies. That being the tsundere who takes part in a comedic physical assault trope of the main character. Every time I see it happen, it leaves me with an awful taste in my mouth. Because in my head, I question, why? Who is this for? What does this achieve? How is this even funny? Don't get me wrong, comedic characters and moments do bring life and entertainment to a story. But when it's done this way, all it does is create more harm than good. Maybe I'm overreaching and it's not that deep. But hear me out and let me break it down. To begin, let's look at what shonen is. In anime and manga, shonen refers to a demographic and often a genre typically targeting young boys aged 12 to 18. It's less about the specific type of story and more about the audience it's aimed at. Shonen stories often feature action, adventure, and the themes of self-improvement with a strong emphasis on the hero's story and determination. So, the target audience is for males, yet the males are routinely abused, assaulted, insulted, and hurt from those who are supposed to be their closest friend. Make no mistake, there's nothing else that describes this but abuse. A female character will unjustly attack the MC over the smallest misunderstanding, and its worst cases, just because they're jealous or embarrassed and can't earnestly communicate their feelings and emotions. And all I can think about these situations is disgusting. Like, who are you to do this? It's ironic, isn't it? These characters are considered tough in their series, but in reality, they're the ones who can't handle their emotions and turn their frustration into violence. To me, that's weakness. And how does that make any sense? Again, you may say, it's not that serious. But I have to reject this statement. Because notice how this event only takes place when it's the girl is abusing the boy. It is never the other way around. Why is this? And what kind of message does it subconsciously send? Are girls allowed to unilaterally hurt boys just because their feelings hurt and their egos are bruised? Why do they get a pass to do so and it's played out for jokes? The same scene would never run the other way around. And that's why I have never seen it done the other way around. But if you have, do let me know in the comments below. I'm very interested in other examples. As a basic understanding of friendships, it should not do to others what you wouldn't want to be done to you. The social implications suggest that it's socially acceptable to do it. But if a guy was to do the same, then you quickly realize how unacceptable it is. Instantly label the guy as toxic. But there appears to be hesitation to do so when it's the girl, almost as a rejection to reality, that it doesn't matter or that it is harmless when done this way. Before I continue, as not mix up my message, and as a disclaimer, I do not condone violence. I'm not saying both should be able to do the same. Instead, I'm saying it's inappropriate and unacceptable to do to either. Some may be able to play it off as harmless. But in these moments, the narrative does not present this. The MC is often noticeably battered and bruised, winded, knocked over their feet. Very commonly, these injuries are noticeable in later scenes and not just comedically forced away. So how can you tell me this is funny or right? Again I ask, who is this for? Why is this acceptable? How is this funny? I can understand that character quirks exist. It's all part of character arcs, which start the female characters as cold, distant, and abrasive. And their journey is all about growing to understand themselves and learning to control their emotions, to better communicate, and to eventually become a better, more well-rounded person. But personally, I'm against the idea of a flaw for flaw's sake. Making a character purposely worse to show a greater emphasis on the amount of growth the character undergoes is shallow and weak writing. It can be presented in other more healthy and mature ways. Honestly, if I was to ask 100 people who their favorite female characters, I doubt a tsundere will be one of them. And even going through research, albeit there being no definitive ranking, from all the sites I've observed, not a single one has a tsundere in their top 10. And I'll be surprised if one is in your top 10 too. For me, the tsundere is a complete antithesis of what I look for in good female characters. I like those who embody feminine traits, but also respect and rate those who are strong, confident, and dominant too. There is so much range in what makes up a great female character that the point of the male abusers just disgusts me. When I think of great female characters who are loving and supportive, I think Asuna from SAO, Hinata from Naruto, Lucy from Fairy Tail. I see their strength in ways that never rely on hurting others. Their growth comes from their actions, not from making their protagonists a punching bag. Then when I think of cool badass females, I think Maria Leona from Black Clover, Psycho from High School of the Dead, Esdeath from Akame ga Kill. Their power isn't about beating up the protagonists. It's about their courage, confidence, and the way they shape the world around them. Then there's everyone in between, and just to name a few: Erina from Food Wars, Yamada from The Dangers of My Heart, and Kaori from Your Lie in April. All distinctively different characters who all have meaningful arcs and stories, but they don't come at the expense of ridiculing the MC. I want to briefly mention it for the power scaling fans, as a small point, as it personally doesn't bother me too much. As I remember the first time I watched a tsundere character throw a punch at the protagonist was in Naruto, my first anime, as Sakura would constantly beat up Naruto, yet somehow was completely useless in life and death fights, which in all honesty I believe is another layer of the hate on her. What started as a joke becomes tiring until I couldn't ignore it anymore. It went from funny to exhausting to hate. But this is not limited to just Naruto. A lot of tsunderes act abusive to the MC, despite the MC's loyalty being their number one supporter and most reliable protector. And look how they repay them. Other offenders, to name a few, include Tiger in Toradora, Ayame in Fruit Baskets, the latest offender being Himari from Can a Boy Girl Friendship Survive? When tsundere's characters repeatedly lash out at the protagonist's humor, it limits the emotional depth of the character and undermines the potential for growth. It perpetuates a harmful dynamic that doesn't allow for true emotional growth. I know I've said a lot, and for some, this may not seem like a big deal, but I really want you to consider the wider message this gives. It glorifies toxic relationships and creates an impression that it's okay. These, quote, funny scenes are too similar to how we excuse emotional abuse in real life. It's meant to be laughed at, but it shouldn't be funny. I know this is fiction, but every story told gives a subtle message which rewires our brain. Hence why a lot of shows will clearly present good moral lessons the characters learn, which are then passed to us, the viewer, to learn, such as self-discovery and redemption in Vinland Saga, the power of teamwork in Haikyuu. On the other end, they also reject bad morality. This includes common themes of how social inequality is wrong in Black Clover, discrimination and prejudice in AOT, revenge and the cycle of hatred in Naruto, oppression in One Piece. In all these examples, when something negative is shown, the story makes it crystal clear it is wrong and we shouldn't do it. But for some reason, when it comes to unjust and unwarranted male abuse, it's played out as a joke. And not once does the MC or the story ever acknowledge that it is wrong and unacceptable. The female is never scrutinized or held accountable for their actions, and many of times they don't ever apologize. They often end up running away and crying, then gaslighting the MC to being the one in the wrong, having all the excuses in the book. Then the MC is the one made to apologize and make amends. I would also blame the MC for this also, but that's a breakdown for another day over the simp protagonist. So let me focus on the abuser as not to victim blame. This video was inspired by the new ongoing show, which is Can a Boy-Girl Friendship Survive? As Himari, in just the first 3 episodes, has already physically abused the MC Hugh twice, which reinvigorated my hate for this archetype, as it was slowly a dying breed with the rise of mental health concerns and a fight against abuse and toxicity, with a new direction of presenting more healthy and earnest relationships in anime. My hope is this is the last time I see this type of character, as it does continue to decline. Because ultimately, when tsunderes are done right, they can be endearing characters who we grow to love. They can provide a dynamic and different relationship, which often fills a much needed hole in a much loved harem genre, with them also being especially notable in the enemy to lover trope, which we also do love. There is just no need or circumstances for them to be physically or verbally abusive, and when done poorly, it is simply character assassination. This may have sounded like I'm trying to police storytelling, and fiction doesn't need to be taken this seriously, but I would love to hear from your thoughts. Does this type of character annoy you, or is it just me? Do you think this has any effect on culture and how we see real life relationships? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, like, comment and subscribe. And until next time, ciao.